My mobile office in the bus is getting set up, so I can do some work on my YouTube channel on the road a little easier. That is a tailgate table from a 40s Chevy pickup truck. And I did put a foam mount underneath the computer, and then it's going to be hooked down with some plates. So that foam pad will kind of give a little extra cushioning when it goes down the road so it doesn't bang around too much. Should be pretty good. So this is a dry liner system here. I wanted to make sure that everything fit nice and tight, that there's no play in it, that you can feel it dragging the whole way it goes. 71 series, this is a dry liner, unlike a 92 series, which is a wet liner, meaning that the dry liner on the 72 or on the 71 like this, coolant never comes in contact with this. So the coolant's flowing through the block, this is touching the block, and that's how the heat gets taken away. A 92 series has the wet liner where there's an O-ring on it, and coolant actually flows up against the inside of it. So it's better at cooling, but it causes other issues. You have more problems with cavitation, you'll get holes in your liners, things like that. I personally like the dry liner better, but it's just a choice. I think the 92 series does cool a little better, but there's more issues with them that I've seen. All right, we're getting ready to install the new cylinder liner kits. These particular ones are from FP Diesel, which is Federal Mogul. They are made in India, not China. If that makes a difference at all, I don't know. But I've had better luck with the FP Diesel stuff than I have any of the genuine Detroit. Parts missing, not fitting right, broken, wearing out sooner. That's issues I've had with the genuine stuff. These are the larger liners. If you ever have a question about it, you can take a quarter, and if a quarter slides through, that is the larger liner port. They can be as small as like 0.88 inches, just to give you an idea. It comes with the new piston. They're inside the piston. There will be two new wrist pin retainers, little flat pieces of metal there. That's what seal the wrist pin in. And there's a special tool that we have. We'll go through that. And it comes with new rings. The rings, there's a couple different options that are in there depending on if it's an intercity transit bus or a highway coach or highway engine. They require a different spring that goes under the oil control rings to control the amount of smoking and stuff like that. It tells you, and the rings do go a certain way. There's a top and a bottom, and there's certain positions. The fire control ring is different than the others. These are trunk style pistons. And these have the fire control ring way up top. The older style, the fire control ring is down about in the middle of this area down here. So you get a little bit higher compression, and I like these better as well. A couple specialty tools, very simple. This is all we're going to be using is a hammer, a vacuum gauge with a special attachment on the end, a ring compressor, wrist pin installer tool, and a screwdriver and a hammer. That's about it. So we'll drive a screwdriver through the middle of this wrist pin retainer. The wrist pin is hollow in the middle, so as long as you go through the middle, and then you can pop it out, that pin will pop out. You can slide the wrist pin out, lift the rod out. The rod is the only part that we will be reusing. Even though these pistons are in good shape, obviously this one had a problem where the fire ring is stuck on it, so compression was down on that one as well. There's a few of them on there that are stuck like that. It's probably just because it had sat a long time before I ran it. I think that happens a lot. I use these special little rubber or these hose where I cut that little end and you can bend it over in there and you slide that over the end of the connecting rod so the rod bolts don't nick the crank when you slide it down in. Assembly lube. The vacuum gauge, once you install the wrist pin, I have a large suction cup here. It's actually a Detroit tool. It goes over the end so you can draw a vacuum on it. There is pressurized oil flowing up the center of the rod onto that wrist pin and spraying. There's little nozzles inside there that spray the inside of the piston as well. And that spraying action is what cools the piston inside, but you don't want pressurized oil leaking out of the side here, which is why we put a vacuum gauge on it to test it for that. Tip of a traveling mobile mechanic is your assembly lube. Once you've had it opened, always store it in a Ziploc baggie. I had the lid come off of that in my toolbox one day, driving down the road. That made a hell of a sticky mess inside of my toolbox. I was not happy. Don't ever just throw that little tube in your toolbox. You'll be very mad at yourself. That's basically it. We got kind of a clean area here that we're going to do this on. One side of the table will be have old parts on it. The other side will have new parts. We're going to continually clean our hands. We've got lint-free microfiber towels that we'll be wiping surfaces with. There's a can of WD-40 there. I won't be using that. I use that to lube up my my vacuum pump. I got some diesel fuel in it the last time I used it and it wasn't working very well. So we're going to start the assembly. I've already pre-fit this liner in the cylinder. I know that the height is good on it. Everything fit nice. And we'll show some of that when we get out there once we install it and so on. So we're going to go ahead and start tearing this down and get ready to start putting this kit here together. All right, Tyler's going to go ahead and start the disassembly of this. Like we said, just a quick punch with that little screwdriver. It usually pops right out. Of course, we're recording. It's not. Can't go too deep. And it's off. Go ahead and slide the wrist pin out of there. And throw it in this box so we don't have messy, oily parts everywhere. And just pull that out, throw the piston back in that box. We're going to get rid of it. Okay. And we'll go ahead and wipe that rod down, get it and inspect it, make sure it looks good. We're just looking inside of here, make sure there's no marks or wear on there. We can replace those bushings if we need to. Okay, Tyler's going to go ahead and install the wrist pin on here. Okay, so I'm going to lay it down on its side. So you need to make sure that it's completely flat on both sides. It's like right now this one side is sticking out a little bit. It needs to get in there 100% straight to begin with. It's still, I can't, one side's still high. Tool's going to go on there. He's going to give it a good whack with the hammer. It'll be a good one. Still feels high on that side. I would put that thing back in and make sure you hit on that side real good. Okay, we're going to draw a vacuum on it. Okay, so we have the suction cup on there. We're testing for a vacuum. And we're going to hold it for a minute. It won't make you watch the whole minute on the video.
I was really going to ask, are you about to make them watch an entire minute of a vacuum gauge not moving?
No. That's enough. You also want to make sure that there is lube all the way around that ring. It seals it better when you do that. Again, that is a especially large vacuum suction cup, and I put a little Permatex in it so it never comes out. It used to fall out all the time and drove me nuts, so it's not going anywhere. But we're holding a vacuum good. We'll wait for a minute and test it. Okay, so we're going through the piston rings here. These are the oil control rings that go on the bottom. One of them has a silver line on them, the other ones don't. The other three are all the same. There is a top side and a bottom side. One side is smooth, and one side has these little ridges that come in and out. That's the bottom. There's two sets of springs that come with those. One's for a city coach, one's for a highway coach or truck. We're not using the inner city transit one. And then there are these four rings, and one of them I think is a little bit different than the other. It could be or not. It tells you on the instructions. One of them has possibly two rings. Otherwise, there's an O that is there's that little O that's on there. These look like these are all exactly the same. Some of the kits, they have a different, the piston setups have a different, the fire control ring is a little bit different. So we're going to go ahead and start installing these. Just to give you an idea, the O goes to the top side there. He's going to go ahead and start installing these on the piston. You should understand how to do those. Just pull it apart and slide it on down. Okay, so he is putting on the oil control springs right now. And then he's going to put on the oil control ring. Yep, the silver one is the top one. Nope, go one at a time. Nope, go all the way. There you go. And this is where you have to be really careful that that doesn't make the spring jump itself. So you need to look at the gap on the spring where they meet together there. You just passed it up. Go backwards. It's usually where the color is, right?
Yeah, right there.
Is it overlapped itself?
No. Yeah, a little bit. There we go.
Yeah, there you go. I also don't like that right at the joint, so spin it over just a little bit. Okay, but keep where you can see it, that's fine. Okay, put the next one on. If you have that spring jump its gap, you'll break these rings when you go to install them. Two of them go on each channel. And they're very fragile. If you're ever going to break something, that's what's going to break. Make sure that it's not, the spring hasn't, by jumping itself I mean like overlapping, because one side can go over the other end, and then it'll be too fat when you go to squeeze it together, and that's how they break. And a lot of guys don't know that they break them. If it's hard to load in the liner, usually means that you broke it, but they're too lazy to pull it back out and check it and make sure they didn't break it. Okay, so we have a cup of oil, and Tyler's going to pre-lube the ring compressor. And I did just clean it. It's 100% clean, so there's no chance of crap being down in there. You will push oil out of the bottom of this. Let's put a plastic bag under it, maybe. Lift it up. Just trying to keep our work area a little bit cleaner. And you got everything staggered on there correctly? Mm-hmm. Okay. One movement. Is it hard?
Yeah, it's coming back up.
All right, we're gonna check the oil control. So we just pushed it right on down in there, and it's now in place. We can remove the ring compressor. Take the nuts off. You also can't have the rod cap on when you do it, or it doesn't come off. So that liner is ready to be loaded. Of course, we're out here trying to remove, get the bottom end done, and it's raining again. We're supposed to have a couple of hours of no rain, but that's not happening, and poor Tyler's getting dripped on down there. I just moved this engine hatch because it was leaking pretty bad on the seam here. I thought, I'll lay it down a little bit so it's a better angle and it won't do that. And then a whole huge stream of water poured all over poor Tyler. I got him. So there's the rod bearing on number 4. I don't know how many miles are on that. This is the rod bearing on number 1. This is the one that I replaced when I first got that bus, what, 4.5, almost 5 years ago. It's got about 80,000 miles on it. Nothing catches the fingernail on there. There's a little bit of a weird wear pattern on it, but it's perfectly smooth. I don't feel anything. I was curious how the propane was affecting the engine, and this wear right here on this rod bearing. You know, if this one looked really crappy like these, and there's some others out there that are even more wear coming through like that. You know, the different colors when we get into the copper and stuff. So maybe I'll have to do shorter interval changes on my bearings, if I'm running the propane. I don't know if necessarily that's the issue.
The governor also plays into that too.
Yeah, and I am running it faster. Again, we're like 2,400 no load on this engine, so it's hauling ass all the time, which is about 2,250 on the highway. So that's quite a bit, but I'm fine. You know, there's nothing majorly concerning to me here. I'm happy that this one is still looking in pretty good shape. Obviously, we're replacing them all, but it just goes to tell me how they're going to be. Tyler's knocking them out. Almost done. Just a couple more. Oh, it's raining good again. Definitely wait till tomorrow to finish up. No update on the fuel injectors. They've started an investigation that takes up to 8 days to complete, and they won't do anything until after the 8 days. So PC Industries is going to go ahead and ship me new injectors. I'm hoping they're going to overnight them to me and me not have to pay for overnight. I'm waiting to hear back from them on that one. I don't think it's fair for me to have to pay for the overnight. It should have been here. I think UPS should take care of that, but we'll see what they do. Ran to the DeWalt store today to get a new anvil for my 1/2-inch impact gun that broke, and hopefully this one will last longer. So there's a box of all the new pistons, everything all assembled, ready to go. We should have the engine together and running tomorrow. It should be running tomorrow. That would be my guess. Really now just we're waiting on the weather and the fuel injectors. Update, UPS has lost them, but they have an 8-day investigation they have to do, and then once the 8-day investigation is over, then they can refund or pay out the insurance claim on it. So meanwhile, PC Industries is going to go ahead and ship me new ones. However, I have to pay for the upgraded shipping. Otherwise, all the UPS will do is credit back the same form, the same type of shipping that was originally paid for. So we had it 3-day select last time. I don't want to wait 3 days to get it. Even though they should have had it here by a certain day instead of not how many days it took. I think UPS should have stepped up and paid for the overnight shipping to get it here right away, but they will not. So I got to pay for that out of pocket. I just got to pay for the difference. So it's cost me like $60 more to have them here tomorrow so that I can get this engine together and running. So because it's raining, I'm not in any hurry. I don't want to do this in the rain. Tomorrow's going to be a good day, and putting these liner kits in is only going to take an hour to do that, and then maybe another half hour to do the main bearings on the bottom end, get that all put back together, put the head on, fuel injectors in, that kind of stuff. The head will take a while, blower, all that, but it should be back together and running tomorrow night. So stay tuned for more video from tomorrow.